The Crawford case is a great example of using a statute like burglary, a compound crime, to really elevate the offense of a defendant for whatever reason that the prosecution wants to enhance the sentence on. So in this case, we saw part of the sentencing argument that this guy is very much of a repeat offender, and so there was an effort to really kind of sock it to it. So this case is a great example of something that you wouldn't really think necessarily fits into burglary. I mean, the paradigm example of burglary is, a broken window, the guy crawls through, much like we saw in the Arco burglaries that we looked at. Here, you've got basically not even a pickpocket. You've got someone who is going through and pilfering through people's book bags and taking money out of them at the Penn campus when those book bags are unattended. We don't want to pin a medal on this guy, but what the court or what this case does is this elevates the crime to being similar to one where someone breaks into a building in the middle of the night. In fact, it's even worse. It's going into an occupied building because the Penn campus is actually occupied. This is an area, common area, where the Penn campus has established if you're not associated with the University of Pennsylvania, you're not allowed to be here. But university campuses are fairly free flowing. We don't want people there who are pickpocketing. And we recognize that those folks are worse than simple trespassers, and the crime is very different. But here in this case, we have taken a pilferer of book bags, and we've said that he's entered a part of the Penn campus that he's not allowed to be upon because he's not part of the university. There's a no trespassing sign to this particular room that's adjacent to an all-bond pan that he is in fact allowed to be in. That's open to the public. But he crosses into the next room and he doesn't break any doors. He walks through and takes money out of book bags. If those book bags had been in the all-bond pan, we've only got theft. We don't have this first degree, very serious crime of burglary, for which in this case he gets between 40 and 120 months in jail. If the book bags have been in the restaurant, it's simple theft. So whether that was justified given his overall life circumstances or not, you can see that this burglary statute that allows for things that are far from the paradigm case of the thief in the night who breaks the window and crawls through can then become liable to this particular statute. So has he in fact, then there's the question of whether he should have been charged this way, but has he actually committed this crime? And the court says yes, he has, because there's a clear sign indicating that he's not allowed to be there, the no trespassing sign. But again, as we know, college campuses are fairly porous. There are all sorts of people who wander through university buildings who, may not be there for, any real purpose. And the Penn campus, it's a particularly attractive campus. It is an elite campus. There are people who want to tour the campus or just wander through, who don't have any real particular reason to be there other than want to see, this sort of, historic fabled institution. So, the defendant walks through and takes the money. The court says that no trespassing sign is sufficient to show that he didn't have the right to go into this separately secured part of a building, parts of which he was absolutely entitled to be in. Another great aspect of this case, the burglary statute is one that does not include a mens rea term for entry. And so the court has to ask the question, or the defendant forces the court to ask the question as to whether there is any mens rea associated with the entry into this building? Does he know he's entering a place that he's not privileged to be, that the public is not allowed to go into? And this is a mens rea question. Is there a requirement that he knowingly, intentionally, or recklessly violate a space that he's not allowed to occupy? And the court says, we're not actually going to say whether we're reading a mens rea term into the entry requirement. But if we did, he was at least reckless, which is the term we tend to read in when the legislature leaves it out. He was at least reckless in entering that room because there was a no trespassing sign. So this is a really neat little burglary case for a lot of reasons. It shows you something about separately secured portions of a property, of a building. It shows you something about the way that the burglary count can sometimes really elevate the sentence, and it gives you a little primer on the effect of the legislature's omission of a mens rea term.